The only person who asked me a positive question last week about how we're going to put our game together, which we did. So Tom, I'd love you to go first, mate. You kick us off on a positive tone.
Cheers. So it was your birthday yesterday?
It was, mate, yeah.
Happy belated.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I'll jump in with sort of similar theme to last week. There was a lot of talk about the unavailable players, and I was just wondering how much that had factored into the players who were on the pitch. Like, for example, in the back row, you name-checked Ernst van Rijn after the game. Sam Dugdale, I saw, put 32 tackles in. Was that on their mind to sort of prove a point coming into the game?
But yeah, they mentioned it in the week that most people, particularly Gloucester, might be looking at the team sheet and saying that this is our opportunity to put one over at Sale, and so I guess there was a bit of that within that young group. But it's the same forward pack that competed and played well over Christmas last year, but lost. You know, the majority of games they're a year on now. And now they're winning, or at least they won on Saturday. So it shows at least the distance travelled with that group and the strength and depth that we've got.
Yeah, and you sort of mentioned that your half-time team talk had been sort of more about, well, less tactics and more digging deeper, going to the line instead. Has it been similar messaging this week ahead of Falcons?
Well, it's difficult, isn't it, to talk about going to the well. You know, if you're in that environment, if you're in that position, you can label it, call it, and understand how you drive it. A lot of the week, particularly the first half of the week, is based around your strategy, your tactics, your knowledge, your launches, getting the detail in, and then you start to kind of thin slice and hone in on what the mentality is back end of the week. Certainly on game day, you don't really want to be talking tactics. You want to free them up in terms of those decisions. So, not yet, but we will do on Thursday. We'll dig into mentality on Thursday and make sure that our purpose and what's driving us and what's helping us dig deep is on par, if not better, than Newcastle's, which it has to be. You know, and theirs is quite obvious. They've already talked about survival. They're already talking survival and food on plates and roofs overhead. So we've got to match them there.
Yeah. So, well, would it be too early to say then that obviously there's all the stuff that's come out between you and Steve Diamond, sort of trying to fuel this rivalry? Is that already in the players' mindset, or is that something you're having to push at all for them? Are they sort of already invested in that?
I think it has to be on your radar, part of your agenda and messaging every day. And the neuroscientists say 20% of your messaging has to be around higher purpose and motivational drivers. So personally, I frame the week at the start of the week, and we allude to it again on the second day, and then we focus most of the Thursday kind of messaging around that. So they're already onto it, and we spoke about it in the coaches' preview last Saturday. We do our preview, on the Friday. We do our preview the week ahead before the game that we play. And we said we have to make this. We can't just start approaching this back end of next week, because it'll be too late then, given our understanding of what Newcastle and Dimes and probably what they'll be driving this week. We have to match them there. So yeah, it's been high up there on the priorities list from day one.
Yeah, just finally on Luke Dickey, you mentioned that he'd sort of made some sacrifices over the summer to get where he is now, where you're sort of saying he's ready to get back in an England shirt. Is that something you'd be able to talk more about, what those sort of sacrifices were?
No, that's between us. We're just more dedicated, more focused. I wouldn't say wants it more, because he's always wanted it, but it certainly is. You know, this World Cup will be his last World Cup. Like, he knows that, and having not played for 3 years, he's keen to get back in an England shirt. You know, and within that time he's relocated and everything else, so he's just really, really knuckled down with every aspect of his life, and you can see it just flowing onto the field at the moment. They're proud of him.
Yeah, well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Tom. Cheers, mate.
Hi there, Rob Kitson here.
Hi, Rob. You all right?
Well, belated happy birthday again.
That's all right. I shouldn't have mentioned it now, should I?
Those ribs are recovered.
Oh, they're better. Look, I can shout and I can potter around. So yeah, no, they're all better. I've got a suitcase full of painkillers. So
We were talking to Dimes this morning. Actually, yeah, we enjoyed all the stuff in the papers. You looked like you had a bit of fun the other day. You know, the sauna. I don't know what you do to him in the sauna this Thursday. I mean, he sort of got his fingers in the door or something. I don't know.
I don't think we tend to stay away from each other on kind of game weeks, and Katie, his missus, takes Evie down to the swimming pool. So I probably won't see him this week, which is probably best, isn't it? We do like each other, but we do actually really want to beat each other as well. So there's that.
That's fair enough. Who have you got available this week that you didn't have last week?
Hey, well, I'm only going to mention some of the big names, so we don't, because I get told off from Simon and Michelle Orange about releasing too much information, so teams can plan against us. But both the whole Dupree compliment, that's how we wanted to describe it, and the Curry compliment, the smorgasbord that is Curry's and Dupree's will be involved in the squad this weekend, and hopefully get them all on the field at the same time. So that is really exciting, first time in a year and a half, I think.
Well, all of them. Yes, I suppose it would be, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And just finally for me, how important is it? As I say, we've spoken a lot about the Northern Rugby, and there's no Premiership football this weekend. Yes, there's a grand final in Manchester, but I just wonder how, it is important to put on a bit of a show when you get the opportunity, isn't it? I would suspect.
Oh yeah, verbally I was saying we need to be better after the first game, and as we talked about last week, Tom, there's elements of that second game against Sarries which were better by way of our attack. And last week I think we put it all together. For the most part, we made 260 tackles. There was 44 minutes ball in play. That's a record, like a world record. It's 50% ball in play. And we scored, a lot of points, and it could have been more, should have been more, we reckon. We'll have to try out there against the best attacking team. So, I feel like our attack's in a good place at this point in time. You can't get ahead of yourself, don't get me wrong. It's a different challenge against Newcastle, but for aspects of our game that we're looking to showcase and that we've worked on, they've all been there in the last 3 weeks, no more so than for last Friday night.
And just go back to Tom Curry very quickly. Is he, he's had such rotten luck, hasn't he?
Yeah.
I don't know, does anything change, or you say, look, just go out there and play like you play, or?
Yeah, just trying to, I just wanted to thank you last week for not putting too much out there about him, just because there's so much heat on him, and he hasn't even played more than 40 minutes yet because of the repeat injuries, and then that builds up, and then the more he sees, the more he probably feels it, because of the weight of expectation that comes with a great player. Like, he is a great player, and he will handle that. But like I say, right now, it's just about freeing him up and letting him play. So we've kept him out of all the kind of serious meetings, out the leaders' meetings, for all this sake, and just want him to get back on the field. But part of me took a nick today in his eye. He can never be a boxer because he bleeds too easy. But he's moving really well, talking well. Like, he's good for it. He's good for it on Friday night. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him go.
Cool. Thanks very much.
Cheers. Thanks, Rob.
Hi, Alex. Robin at Radio Manchester.
Hi, Robin. How are you?
Yeah, good. What did you do for your birthday?
I only had a 3-hour birthday, if I'm honest, because we had a 13-hour day here, which is generally the case. I went for a curry, and then I went home and had half a bottle of wine and a giant mega birthday cookie that my son made from his own hands, an 8-year-old lad. So a bottle of Malbec and a cookie, basically, and some old man dad pants that my missus got me. So it was decent. I enjoyed it. We had a good day here and stuff like that. And I've got tomorrow off, so I might do something tonight. Might do something. I'm not. You don't celebrate birthdays after 40, Robin. It doesn't happen. There's no point. It's hard to keep them quiet like I did yesterday.
We've been speaking to Steve Darman today, who been talking about how much the club's come on in terms of pushing for its crowds and what it's done in the area even in the last few years, really. He also kind of said that there's not a lot more Sale can be doing at the moment to kind of bring the crowds in. Where do you feel on that, about where the popularity and the crowds at the club are at?
It's definitely the best it's been since I've been here. You know, good crowds in comparison to the fixtures that we have, because we obviously always look at comparisons because we know which teams travel well, which teams don't, at what time in the season, and you know, increased percentages from last year. And the atmosphere is pretty good. There's always ways in which you can market better, potentially, and we're recruiting on that front, on the commercial front as well. We've got a full-time commercial director just come in as of yesterday, right? Yeah. So we're looking to improve the organisation on that front. But realistically, it just comes down to winning. Like, ticket sales and sponsorship comes down to the lads and me doing a job on the field, and because neutral fans support trophy cup winners, don't they? So brings us round to this season, doesn't it, and our aspirations again.
I felt that win over Gloucester was really important, because you alluded to earlier that pack being one that played when you'd lost at times last season at a difficult time.
Yeah.
Yet this time you've come through and you've won it, and that must feel quite a big step in many ways. Just that your periphery of your squad is better, but also you're getting those results that maybe the times when injuries are against you.
Watershed to a degree, and not that I didn't have confidence in them. Like, I do have confidence in them, but they've still got to get it over the line, haven't they, and win the game. So it showed, like, as the people you mentioned who sit behind Currys and Duprees, the likes of Ruben Birch and Sam Dugdale, you know, who actually want to be competing for those shirts. Yeah, but also Toomey, who came on, who featured a lot last year. Like, he was really good again. You know, got the turnover, which we scored a try from a defensive turnover. Ben Bamber, who's like strength to strength. We're talking about Leroux Roots earlier, but he's another one that made England A last year because of his performances over Christmas, and he's competing for that tighted lock slot. So yeah, really rewarding. I buzz off that as much as I do the win, really, seeing these lads be able to step up and actually get recognition, I guess. 19 out of the 23 academy bred from that squad at the weekend, and that's a good sign.
How good is it to have Aaron Reid back?
How good is it? Like, that's the best he's played. Should have started him in the first game, and Matt scored more tries. He's been pretty stiff since, actually, but it's not. We know Aaron. He's got pace and he's got finishability. He's got a bit of X factor in it, and he showed that in the try that was scored from the maul. But I don't think that was the best part of his game. I thought defensively, like, he was everywhere. He chased every kick and chased back on every line break. And I think I'm right in referring to his post-match interview, which I haven't seen, but one of the coaches told me about it, and he based his performance around effort. Just around that being part of the DNA, and that's what we do. So you've got a player of that skill, whose X factor is speed, and he's just talking about working hard. Then culturally, or at least certainly in terms of Aaron, then you know they're on the right track, and they're singing from at least the song sheet, which I'd hope that they'd sung from. In Aaron's case, it did from the weekend. So yeah, he's a great player, isn't he? Suffice to say, he's starting again this weekend. I'll give you that one, Kieran.
Brilliant. Well, good luck.
Thanks, Robin.
See you Friday.
Cheers, mate. See you Friday.
I'll jump in there, Al. Just on Aaron Reid, that run back, that
Yeah.
ultimately Gloucester did score from the penalty, but that run back to tackle Atkinson and then Barton, is that the type of thing that kind of going forward in the future, you can always, as a group, refer back to, like, that's what we want to be. We want to be that team that just never gives up, and that piece of play was incredible. He had the pace to get back, but also the drive to not just give up and think, oh, he's going to get there. I'm going to do everything in my power to stop them.
Yeah, that's what he said. He referred back to it and he just said, look, when I put my head down, I said, I'm going to go for it anyway. And if I don't get there, I don't get there. But yeah, certainly to try. Yeah, definitely. I'd love that to be the core. Well, it is the core values. You know, we base a lot of what we do on work rate. Because then anyone can be a hero, can't they? You got work rate and talent, you end up being an unbelievable player, don't you? But it's getting that as a habit, Kieran.
A lot of good performances on Friday. I wanted to focus on two Sams. Firstly, Sam Dugdale. Not the sexiest name because he's not Curry, he's not a Dupria. He's had an amazing kind of career if you think he was released during COVID times, if my memory doesn't mistake me there. And then to come back, and he's just such a dependable player. Do you think he'll ever get the credit outside of the club that he deserves? Because every time he plays, he's just consistently good.
He's consistently good. We've talked about this yesterday. Again, he's in that, as you know, the position which is the most competitive within our squad, I would say. And we actually talked about, he said, you mentioned the first time I want to play for England, and that hasn't been on the radar for him. Because first and foremost, he had to get into the Sale team. And now he's getting in and consistently getting in and performing well. We can start talking about what that looks like beyond. So I'd hope he would get some recognition at some point. He still knows there's a ways to go within his game, and that's what we're looking to layer on the 33 tackles and the couple of turnovers that he got. He's got to do a bit more ball in hand in some of those wider channels and probably be a little bit more physical in the collision. Not a lot more, like he is physical, don't get me wrong, but I'm talking Jack Berger-esque, you know what I mean? And that's a really good kind of 7 for him to fashion and mould himself on. His words, not mine. It's like I've been watching some old footage and I think because he's the same size as Jacques was, if he can get his timing right, there's an extra layer of physicality and add to his game. And he's a smart player in those wide channels. So I'm going to set him up with Jack. I haven't spoken to him for a while, but I've still got his number in my phone, so I'll set him up with him and we'll take it from there. I think he's a good person to mould on, isn't he? Rather than anyone in the Premiership, looking for someone who is internationally kind of recognised.
How much of an influence playing, training, competing alongside the likes of the Currys and the Duprias has that had on his development? Because presumably that has forced him to kind of raise his levels as well as learning off all those guys who are internationals.
Faf and Raf, Fordy, and Tom Curtis, who sat on the bench and probably should have gone on at the weekend. The Currys and Sam Dugdale. And you see it from the other side, like, Steve Borthwick and Amaru Itoje. They learn the best from the peers. They're at the coalface, and when you've got senior players who are looking to give back and spend time with some of the young lads, sit down with them, watch videos, that's when you get an environment where kind of excellence breeds excellence. So, yes, hugely influential, not just competing with them, but like at the end of yesterday's session, they are taking breakdown drills and they're coaching each other. I'm just watching. I didn't two benefit from there, but they're changing, shaping the drill. And Tom Curry's taking it, and Ben Curry's adding to it, and Sam's in the middle of it, and you're like, well, this is just great, isn't it? When you get that kind of environment going, you're really cooking, and that's what's happening at the moment. I'm happy to say it feels good.
Sam Bedlow thought also had a good game. He spoke, I think it was at one point last season about, or maybe it was when he signed, about kind of adding a little bit more physicality perhaps in defence. Boy, was he physical with the ball and without the ball as well, wasn't he, on Friday?
Well, he had those couple of early carries, didn't he? And the second one really dented him and set us up for that second try, that beautiful try that Roebuck broke and gave the inside pass. And then in the second half, they're so worried about his physicality at the line, just the really deft, soft set of hands to pull the ball back for Rob Dupree and give Aaron Space the ball in that wider channel to run round from. So he had it both. He had both ends really, but the physicality set him up for for the out the back pass in the second half. So I was really impressed with Sam, and it wasn't an easy day for him for reasons that with Liam Canning passing away the week before. Like, he really had to work hard not to be over emotional, which it probably was a bit the week before against Sarries. This week he got it just right.
In terms of any injuries, I saw obviously when Allison came up just before half time with what looked like a facial eye injury. In regard to him and others, were there any? Presumably there were some walking wounded, but in terms of actual proper injuries, were there any injuries picked up?
No, yeah, you're right. He got a finger in the eye. Will I know, it does happen, doesn't it? And then he got it about 10 minutes before half time, and then he missed a tackle, and the physio was like, I think he just missed that. He said he missed it because his depth perception's out. And then we scored, and we had a kick off, and he's like, he wants to swap with Bedders because he doesn't think he can be able to see the ball. I'm like, well, get him off. I'm like, I'd rather have a two-eyed Wasaya on than a one-eyed Addy. So we made that change. Not a very funny anecdote. Everyone else is good. Yeah, everyone else came off and, yeah, like you say, bumped and bruised, but we had a weekend off and they were looking good now.
Only one other injury question. Is Tommy Taylor injured? Is that why he's missed these first few games of the season?
Yeah, Tommy had a hamstring pull, tore his hamstring, I think it was in the warm-up of the last game. He, since then, come back and his sciatica on his other side. He's got a bit of a old man's back, I guess is the medical term, one that I'm all too familiar with myself. So he's gone back in for an epidural this week. Best case, we're looking in the next couple of weeks. Best case, a slightly longer, more protracted return to play than what we would have hoped for Tommy.
Just one final one from me. Going into Friday, it is a derby, although, as has been pointed out, there is a fair bit of mileage between the Northwest and the Northeast. This group has played in plenty of big games over the last few years. How much do you balance being emotional about it being a Northern derby and about playing for more than just a game of rugby versus that line of crossing and perhaps being too emotional? How do you, in a week like this, balance out being emotional but not being too emotional?
It's a bit of feel, Kieran. How do you balance it out? Yeah, it's that's coaching, isn't it? It's the art of coaching, not the science of it. The science is all the GPS and your strategy and your game plans and stuff like that. But the art of coaching, for me, is getting around the lads, all the little conversations you have, picking up on the language that they're using, actually being intentional with your own language that you want to use, pulling your game drivers in close, understanding what they need as the week goes on. And by Thursday, which is our last training day, I've had so many conversations, thousands of conversations almost, as a coaching group, and that filtering back. That's how you make your judgment call as to your tone and your message, and how much of it is around emotion or purpose, and how much of it is around just, making sure that you do your basics really well. I couldn't tell you. It fluctuates week to week, team to team. This week, as I said earlier on, I think those emotional levels, just to match them, have to be high.
Cheers, Al. Thank you.
Thank you, Kieran. We all good? Charlie, got any questions? I think we're almost done there.
Yeah, hello, Charlie Elliott. Nice to get to speak to you.
And you, Charlie.
My question is just regarding sort of the approach to the game. So how do you kind of avoid complacency? Because obviously you know that you're good enough to beat Newcastle.
Yeah.
So for me, I'd say the main issue is if you're not up to your A game. So how do you stop complacency creeping into the players?
It's a bit like Fight Club. First rule is you don't talk about it. You don't, because I think you can manifest it if you talk about complacency and, it being a shit fight. and all that. Yeah, I think you just try and stay away from that and understand how you elevate yourself above it, demand it. You can see it in training, so training is important. Are you preparing in the week? You can hear it in the language, as I said to Kieran, and now the lads are talking. And off the back of a good performance, a good result, generally that's the time where teams take a collective breath, and just you lose that kind of edge of fear that you need every game. You need a little bit of fear. You lose that when you've just had a really good performance and you made 300 tackles. We don't really have that this weekend, as I say, because we've got a lot of lads coming back in, and those lads coming back in, watching those other boys play at the weekend, know they've got to step up, talked about backing up and actually raising the levels of energy and excitement and all the physicality and the work that comes off the back of those kind of feelings. They said that post game and after training yesterday. So that I'm really happy with that. If I've got to stop training and pull them in because the intensity's not there, or if they're talking about outcomes early on in the week as opposed to intent and it being between the ears, then I've got issues. But I haven't had to go there yet, so I'm very happy about that.
And obviously, regarding sort of the recent injuries, are you going to see this game as any sort of opportunity to rotate and get some maybe fresh bodies in there, or?
Well, I've said it. Yeah, we've had to rotate because of injuries earlier than what we've expected. We always had plans to do it, maybe back end of this block, particularly when England players are away, or certainly in the next block post the Prem Cup games, which is 9 weeks long. We have to rotate then. But because of 5 HIAs, all of which were from different isolated incidents, like 2 were in ball carries, 2 were around the back, and 1 was just caught a temple and a hip. So there was nothing really technical to fix there, but 5 HIAs that didn't turn around in a week. Most of them do, took 12-day turnarounds. We were forced into rotation, and I'm really happy that it's happened, and it's happened early on, because now we know, as you said, Kieran, now we know that there's a group. In fact, the whole organisation, doesn't matter who wears the shirt, it's next man up mentality. We've got probably 16 forwards who can compete, and if not win, against any Premiership side.
And I guess as well, sort of regarding the game, kind of how important is it to focus on the opposition, and how much focusing have you been doing? Because obviously there'll likely be more up for this game than usual. So how important is it to kind of look at how we've started the season and analyse that?
You've got to do your analysis. You have to, and we talk about them early on in the week. You can't make too many assumptions around their mentality. Apart from me spending 2 hours, 3 hours with Steve Diamond last week, and there was a lot said across the table, so I've got a better insight to that as I would normally have. And then as soon as you kind of talked about them and framed potentially what they're about, you immediately try and turn your attention towards yourselves and what you do, because that's what you have most control over. So from yesterday lunchtime, most of the conversations, messaging has been about us and what we want to put on the field on Friday.
Brilliant. That's everything from
All right. Cheers, Charlie.
Can I just jump in with just one quick one about the two guys with the England squad this week, and Tom and Luke? What does the week look like for them in terms of how many days they're away and then when they come back into camp?
Yeah, so the training days, this 3-day camp, the agreement that was put in place allowed players to train with England and still come back for at least 1 training day at their club, and their loads to be managed and agreed upon, really, so that they're able to play at the weekend. I think it suits both masters there. So I'm really happy with how they've been managed. Walked through yesterday. They had a hard, fast day today, but so did we. You know what I mean? Then they get tomorrow off and they can catch up on all the relevant kind of launches or defensive maps that they need to see and the calls that we've shifted and changed. And we'll come and do a captain's run on Thursday, you know, kind of frame their mentality, and then we'll go for it on Friday. So for a Friday night game, they'll get one session. And I think most clubs would probably just do one session. Even if they had a Saturday game, they'll end up training Thursday, having Friday off, playing Saturday. So 2 sessions with England and 1 with your club.
Cheers, Al. Thank you.
Thanks, Kieran. All right, boys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers, Tom. Thanks, mate.